That's nice and clear and tells us exactly what's happening. Okay, why we are here. Support to get started obviously focuses on reducing the barriers that people face when taking their first steps to being more active, particularly those living with long-term health conditions, low confidence, or limited access to suitable opportunities. By strengthening local pathways, improving the accessibility and quality of activity, and supporting the workforce and system around the individual. Support to get started brings the We Can Be Active strategy to life, turning its ambition into practical action. This network is your network and provides a safe space for you to share learning, challenge assumptions, and sort of work together with any issues or successes you may have had in the past. Quite simply, who's in the room? We have a variety of different people and range of organisations in this network. We hope you can use this platform to work together following on from this meeting. Debs is here as well from Energize Me in a completely different room. Debs, can you give a quick introduction of what you do, please?
Good morning. Yes, hi, I'm Debbie. I'm the head of communications here at Energize Me. I'm just in here to support, listen, and learn today, but I'm also going to be keeping an eye on the chat. So if anyone does have any questions as you go through, please feel free to pop those in. I'll be keeping a record and we can potentially ask people at the end if you don't want to pop your hand up yeah, we'll go from there.
Okay. I'm mindful of the fact that you might end up seeing my screen at the same time as I let people in. Is that the case, or are we going?
You're not in presentation mode, Debbie's just said.
Okay.
Present mode.
So where's that? Yes, please.
Where's your other screen that you're connected to?
That one there.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We all learn together. That's the purpose of the network. Another one of the Energize Me superstars is Sue, and that's a great segue to bringing Sue in. She is one of our guest speakers, so we shall pop her over now.
Good morning, everyone. Can you see me and can you hear me? I can't see you, so please pop something in the screen or...
We can see you, Sue, and hear you. Yeah.
Fabulous, thank you. That's really helpful. So I'm Sue Forber and I work for Energize Me. My current role here actually is working with people who are already physically active because I have a welfare officer role supporting sports clubs and physical activity providers on welfare, safeguarding and well-being. So my role's slightly outside of what most of us at Energize Me do. However, previously, pretty much my whole career has been spent in mental health charities, most recently with Solent Mind. Prior to that, I worked for Depression Alliance, which was a national charity, which actually amalgamated with Mind just after I left. And prior to that, I worked for Dorset Mental Health Forum for 12 years. That's a peer-led organisation, so led by people with personal experience of mental health issues. Today, I'm going to share a few of my own lived experiences, but also those of many people who I've worked with over the years. So I've experienced episodes of severe depression since early adulthood, and at my most unwell, really my only movement for days or even weeks was from my bed to the loo and back again. The idea of getting showered, getting dressed was too much, let alone setting foot outside or doing any kind of physical activity. So what helped? So there's a number of things. First and foremost, I guess, gentle encouragement from friends, from family, from my GP, from mental health professionals and therapists who I've worked with over the years. And having that gentle encouragement not to take up running or, go and join a club, but to just introduce some really minimal movement to my day, which might just be some stretching while sitting on the sofa. It could just be walking to the post box at the end of the road, turning around and coming back. So not physical activity, not exercise, but just kind of moving my body as a starting point. It really helped me to be able to take small steps, both figuratively and literally, and having people around me kind of celebrate those small wins with me. Being able to go at my own very gradual pace and accept that I was going to have good days and bad days, that that's normal and not any kind of sign that I'm a failure. Peer support, so the support of other people who know what it's like to have mental health issues, that's been absolutely massive and powerful for me. And I know we'll hear more from other speakers about this. What did I need to help me to build up my movement and physical activity? I think having that strengths-based approach, so not starting from the point of, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get out of bed? Why can't I do the smallest task? But actually having those people around cheering me on, saying, I know you can do this and I'm here to help you do it, was really important. When I did get to the stage of trying to do physical activity with other people, so for example, going to a Zumba class, which I used to love doing, getting a warm welcome, that was really important, because if you turn up somewhere and it's already a massive kind of challenge to yourself to step through the threshold for the first time, then having somebody there who's going to say, oh, hi, it's really nice that you've come for the first time. My name's Sue, come and stand here. Is there anything we can do to make this, feel comfortable for you? That really makes a big difference. And yeah, as I managed to do things and go to things more than once, just feeling that sense of belonging and community. So one thing that I've done for the past 10 years now is something called Red January, which I'm sure many of you will have heard of. So that started off meaning run every day in January. And over time, the meaning of red has changed, and now it stands for rise every day. And I think that's a really positive move, because running every day is unattainable for many, many people, including people who run regularly. So it's actually not that healthy to ask people to run every day. But the idea that we will rise every day and just do some form of movement, any form of movement. But Red January is a fantastic community, it has a Facebook page, it has Instagram and so on. So even if you're not physically going to go and do your movement alongside other people, you can still feel part of that by reading what other people are doing every day. You could choose to post, I walked to the end of the road today. whatever you want to do, or you just kind of feel part of it by just reading what other people are doing. So I mentioned peer support earlier, but definitely having those buddies who would kind of go with me to new activities or introduce me to groups, having those role models for recovery, that's so important. I think so I've worked with many mental health professionals, both professionally and personally over the years, but people in those positions taking a holistic approach, seeing me as a whole person, not just as a collection of symptoms or a diagnosis or a label, but seeing the whole me, the whole Sue, my physical being, my obviously mental health issues, my personality, just people taking the time to get to know me. Having non-threatening environments in which to be active. I'm not a gym person. I find gyms really intimidating, but I will now happily go to, a yoga class at my village hall where I know it's incredibly gentle and welcoming. Open spaces I love, so I do love to get out into parks. The New Forest is really near where I live. Gardening is a form of physical activity. So a lot of stuff for me about, just those non-threatening environments that are near to me and where I can go either alone or with other people. There's a few other perspectives that I want to mention. Although it's true and evidence-based that for some people, movement and physical activity can be as effective as medication or therapy for some mental health issues, it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all. For example, for people with a diagnosis of a severe mental illness, a psychotic illness such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, schizoaffective disorder, people that get those diagnoses are often doomed to a drastically reduced life expectancy. And that can partly be to do with the toxicity of the psychotropic medication they're on, but it can also be very much to do with a lack of opportunity for physical activity, a lack of expectation from mental health professionals. You try and do physical exercise on an inpatient mental health unit, it's really difficult. People with experience of trauma can find some forms of physical activity potentially triggering and challenging, so it's important to be mindful of that. People who have physical disabilities alongside their mental health issues can feel doubly excluded if they're exhorted to kind of, physical activity is really important for your mental health. So again, just being mindful of that. Exercise addiction is real for some people, as is over-exercising to achieve weight loss, for example, in some people with eating disorders. So it's just important, as I know you all know, to take that really individual approach when working with people and starting where each person is at. So I guess going back to wanting you all to think of, one action that you might take away with you today. So for me, I would invite you to identify how you can be that buddy, that friend, that family member, or that mental health professional or other professional who really gets alongside somebody with a mental health problem and encourages them to do some movement, even if it is just that stretching on the sofa to begin with. Be that person who celebrates the smallest of wins with them and supports them at their own pace to gradually experience the benefits to their mental health of movement and physical activity. So in a nutshell, I would really encourage you to be that cheerleader. Finally, if you want to know more about current research into mental health and movement, I would really recommend that you follow Dr. Brendan Stubbs on LinkedIn. He's a neuroscientist and a world-leading researcher into this area. Thank you.
Hello, well, thank you very much to Sue. I'm sure that everyone will just pop a thumbs up just to say thanks. As you can see, we're moving quickly on. Safe and effective practice. This is from Ben from Mind. Ben, if you wouldn't mind just popping off your mute and introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dave. And Sue, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I think it's really important that our programs and our sessions are designed and delivered, and we talk about it, especially through lived experience. So, yeah, and incredibly moving. Thank you, Sue, for that. So my name is Ben Hulson. I work at Mind, so the National Mind. I am the physical activity lead for projects and influencing. And one of the projects that I'm working on is safe and effective practice. I joined Mind in November. Before that, I was working at CIMSPA. So I'm relatively new to Mind. CIMSPA is the Chartered Institute for the Management of Sport and Physical Activity. And there, what I was doing as I was working with Mind, amongst other kind of sector partners, if you like, to embed mental health into qualifications and training. And I'll come on to that in a little while as well. When I set this presentation up, I thought I had 30 minutes because I read the email wrong. So I apologise. But Dave, that means you're probably going to be quick fingers as I ask you to flick through the slides. But just on to the next one, please. So currently there are 1.7 million people in the UK waiting for mental health care. So to put that into perspective, that is the approximately same number of people who participate in basketball, cricket, hockey, rugby union, skateboard, table tennis, triathlon, and volleyball combined. So the health sector is increasingly recognising the role that physical activity can play in supporting the public's mental health. The demand is rising fast, but unless the supply side can meet it with quality and consistency, we risk missing this moment for real change. And we believe that safe and effective practice can help the sector to do this. So in this session, I'm going to explore why safe and effective practice matters. I'm going to run through how our support package can help you and the benefits for you of adopting safe and effective practice. So, as it says on the screen, 1 in 5 adults in England live with a common mental health problem. Many aren't getting the help they need and they face a long wait. And 1 in 3 people are telling us that their mental health got worse whilst they're waited. Meanwhile, mental health services are stretched and in some cases they're shrinking. So the need has never been higher, nor the systems more complex, especially when changing commissioning and ICB structures. Next slide, please, Dave. But physical activity can be a powerful tool for both preventing and managing mental health problems. It's not always easy for people experiencing physical or emotional pain. Like Sue says, even getting out of the door can feel impossible. And it's okay. It's not about how far or fast or long, but even 15 minutes can lift our mood. So again, I'm just echoing now what Sue said, but we also need to recognise that when practiced unhealthily, activity can tip into overtraining or exercise addiction. So yes, movement is hugely beneficial, but we must make sure that the message is balanced. It is just one important part of the solution. So we need to move away from this, just back on the last slide there, Dave, that's the one. Thank you. We need to move away from this Beachbody ready And this, again, may be controversial to some people, but exercise is not a miracle cure for everybody all of the time. Because when you're struggling with your mental health, your brain is focused on survival. It's not focused on exercise. When I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, clinical depression, and I was having suicidal thoughts, which first started around about kind of 10 years ago, I wasn't even considering physical activity. I'd had talking therapy, and sport or physical activity was never really mentioned, even though from a very young age it had always been a huge part of my life. So throughout school, college and things like that, I played badminton, tennis, football. I was one of those kids that was out in the summer holidays, dirty knees until sun came up, sun down type of people. But when I was struggling with my mental health, I didn't even think about doing it or getting out there as much. So we need to balance our messaging and our delivery to ensure we're making movement and physical activity accessible to more people as part of the solution, alongside talking therapy and medications. Next slide, please. It's not new. So the sports sector has been on an incredible journey over the last decade. So the Mental Health Charter for Sport and Recreation was a Kickstarter. And since then, we've seen mental health embedded into DCMS and Sport England strategies. We've seen the Elite Sport Action Plan and Duty of Care Review, Rugby League World Cup and partnerships with Movember, and Mind and EFL on your side. If any football fans are out there, they may have seen the Mind badge on the football shirts across the Football League. Right up to mental health being embedded into CIMSPA's professional standards, which I mentioned right at the beginning. What that means is in the coach professional standards, so if you are training to become a coach, there is now bullet points in there, and as part of your qualification and training, there is bits around mental health awareness, mental well-being, what they are, how to look after your own mental health and well-being as a coach, how to kind of spot, support and signpost to your participants. And there's also now a specific professional standard for working with people with mental health conditions, which gives you, which training providers can map their qualifications to. So we've come a long way. For 2026, it says 2025 on the slide. Ignore that. We're in 2026. That marks a real crossroads and a time to reflect, refocus and reimagine of what comes next. Next slide, please. And if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So we know physical activity supports well-being, and the health system is increasingly recognising it through the NHS 4 Ways Forward and 10-year plans focus on prevention and early intervention. The public is ready. So 2/3 of people want referrals to physical activity from healthcare professionals, and 3/4 of people with mental health conditions would like to do more physical activity. But healthcare professionals often don't signpost, citing a lack of personal activity, uncertainty about trusted programs, which is the main one probably, and confidence in delivery skills. They don't know where to send people or refer people onto to get the right support that is safe and effective. So now is the time to work differently. Sport and physical activity are well positioned to complement talking therapies and peer support, but we must ask ourselves, is our delivery always safe and effective? And it's not about radical reform. A lot of people that are delivering sessions will be doing some amazing things already, but small compassionate changes can build trust with our participants, with patients, and with prescribers and commissioners. So the Safe and Effective Practice, we launched in April last year, and it's new guidance on how to safely and effectively support mental health for both participants and for the workforce. Because it's really, really important that we safeguard our coaches as well as the people in our sessions. So we co-designed this guidance over 18 months with more than 180 organisations, from sport and physical activity providers to mental health professionals, funders and commissioners, and most crucially, like I mentioned right at the start, people, both young people and adults with lived experience of mental health problems. And this all came from a growing awareness of how powerful physical activity can be for mental health, and the amazing programs that are out there that are sometimes even saving lives. But we also started to hear worrying stories. So deliverers weren't being supported and were often asked to deal with complex situations that they weren't trained for. So one example that really stuck with us was a coach running a physical activity program for young people, waiting for CAMS support. The idea was brilliant, but the coach had no mental health training. They had no line management or backups and no kind of supervision. And when young people started sharing that they were self-harming or having suicidal thoughts, the coach just didn't know what to do, which makes it really unsafe for them, for the coach, and for the young people involved in that session. So we enlisted the support of our community to design this safe and effective practice guidance to support. Next slide, please, Dave.
No problem.
So as you can see on the screen, the guidance explores settings where people are taking part in physical activity. So it recognises a sliding scale from independence all the way through to secondary care. So independence is about people getting active independently at home or outside. And for example, the We Are Undefeatable app and campaign is brilliant. If you haven't seen that, go and have a look at that. So that's We Are Undefeatable. The community open, so activities open to everyone, such as fitness groups, sports clubs. I always think Parkrun does some amazing things in terms of how inclusive they are, just that community, creating that community feel. Community targeted, which is activities aimed at people who may have a mental health diagnosis, such as mental wellbeing groups, walk and talk programs, through to primary care. So people with mental health conditions, such as programs linked to social prescribing or talking therapy services. And then secondary care, so activities for people experiencing more severe clinical needs, such as inpatient sessions or in partnership with community mental health teams. So it's that real sliding scale because everybody needs that support. So to turn the guidance into practice, we've worked with the sports sector to design our simple but powerful support package. So it contains the checklist, the tools, templates, and case studies, and our tailored support. So the package will help anyone delivering or coordinating physical activities to implement safe and effective practice into their programs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly explore an element of this. So on our safe and effective practice web pages, and what I'll do, if I can find it, I shall throw the link into the chat. Okay, if you want to have a look at that. On our web pages, you can find our editable checklist. So the checklist summarizes the guidance and it provides a way to self-assess your programs, and it will show you where you're meeting the guidance and where you may need some more support. So if you click the link, as circled on the screen there, if you scroll down on the web page, if you're on there, you'll come to a pink section. If you click on the checklist there, it'll take you to the checklist. If you're just following my screen, then that's fine. You can do it later. On to the next slide, please, Dave. So our safe and effective practice guidance highlighted 5 settings that physical activity takes place in. So we've developed a checklist for 4 of those settings. We haven't done one for independent because this setting doesn't require deliverers or a program. So the community targeted checklist looks like this, like on the screen. So each checklist is divided into several sections. So you've got the ratio, so that's the recommended ratio of deliverers to participants. You've got the participants' needs, which you can see on the left, which is needed to safely and effectively support participants. You've got the deliverers' needs, which you can see on the right, what is needed to safely and effectively support deliverers. If you click onto the next slide, please, Dave, you'll also see measuring success, so how you can measure and evaluate your program's mental health outcomes, and then a section that's tools, templates, and case studies. So the resources to help you on the area, so the tools, templates, and case studies are the resources to help you on areas of the checklist you may need some more support. So each tool is numbered, and it can be found in the blue box in each of those settings. So for example, if you look at the screen, just go back one, sorry, Dave. If you look at the screen, on the number 13 is cross-referenced with one of the suggestions of the participants' needs sections. So if you were working through the checklist and you're unsure how to meet that particular criteria, you can come to this box and find a PDF tool to help you with this. So on number 13, it says about an escalation process. If we were to click that link, that would take us to the specific tool for that. So Dave, just click onto the next slide for me, please.
No problem.
And it looks something like this. So all the tools, templates, and case studies are housed in our support package library on Turtle. Again, I can share that if you like afterwards. So our escalation process tool is an example. When we click on the PDF, we're provided with a document that helps you to know what to do if you have a concern about someone's mental health and how to escalate it. It also provides guidance on how and when to break confidentiality when escalating concerns. So all of our tools and templates include good practice examples because it's not new. Some of the things that we've got in there and the tools and the case studies are from work that we've done over the last few years. So there are lots of examples of great work already taking place, and we want to just showcase them. So I hope that makes sense, that the checklist should be relatively straightforward to follow. You find the session that you're working on or that you are targeting, you work through it, and if there's a bit on there that you think I might need a bit of support in there, you can follow the reference to the tools and the templates in there as well. Just to say as well, if you are focusing on kind of secondary care, that does mean that you have to start at open community and work your way through. But I was at an event in Cheshire last week, which is around safe and effective practice, and I was talking to a lady from a talking therapy service up there, and she said when I looked through the checklist and on that open community, there's things on there, really simple things that they just hadn't thought about because they've been working on it so long, that were really, really easy to implement. So hopefully it's not an arduous task. We've tried to make it as easy to follow as possible. On to the next slide, please, Dave. Oh, and again, well, if you want to scan the QR code, by the way, then feel free to crack on with that one. So, brings us back to why we do it. So we're in a mental health crisis. There's 1.7 million people on waiting lists, 1 in 5 living with a common mental health problem, and we have stretched mental health services. Well, physical activity can change lives. It's a non-clinical intervention with clinical outcomes, supporting prevention, treatment, and people waiting for care. Well, to activate physical activity, to help the mental health crisis, it needs to be safe and effective. Not just for the participants, but for the people delivering the activities. The health and care sector, along with funders and commissioners, are backing this approach and working with us to roll it out nationwide. And I've been working with a lot of active partnerships, the Active Partnership Network up and down the country, similar to Energize Me. Next slide, please. And if you are running your sessions and you can prove that you are meeting the safe and effective practice guidance, you can upload your sessions into the Hub of Hope. I don't know how many people have heard of the Hub of Hope. You might have heard of it. Give me a thumbs up potentially if you have, just so I know. But essentially, the Hub of Hope is a platform. It's a directory. So it's the UK's largest and most comprehensive directory of community mental health services and used by hundreds of thousands of people and healthcare professionals. But what we did is we worked with Sport England and the Movement and Mental Health Alliance to create a physical activity and movement filter. So if you are running sessions, you can put your session on there and potentially be reaching more people. Next slide, please. Again, so this is just a quote from one of our lived experienced advisors as well. So as I say, at Mind, we constantly look for, when we're developing sessions and programs, we enroll the help of people with lived experience. And this is one of the things that they've said. Next slide. That goes on to the, if you want to scan that QR code, that's where I sent you before. It's the same link. It's a safe and effective practice, but it can take you onto the support package as well. Next slide. Okay. So once again, I just want to say a huge thank you for having me here today. I know that was a very fast whistle-stop tour to the safe and effective practice guidance, but if you have any questions, please do let me know. And just before I go, I just want to say safe and effective practice isn't new. There are many people in the sector, many organisations that are already delivering elements of it. But ensuring the sector delivers a more consistent and high quality service for participants and the deliverers. Because safe and effective practice isn't about a report or a support package, it's a movement for change. And it's a movement for change to unite health and physical activity. And there's a lot of conversations out there about how the sport and physical activity sector, or how people working within that sector align themselves more closely with health. And in terms of mental health, I think the safe and effective practice guidance is a perfect start for that. Thank you once again for having me. Dave, there's our details, by the way. If you want to visit, there's loads of support on our website. Drop us an email, so sport@mind.org.uk. And if you want to follow us on LinkedIn, then our handle is #SportMinds. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you very much indeed. That's really, really insightful. I'm sure everyone can actually agree with that one. What we'll do now is we'll pop on a 10-minute break. I will stop sharing my slide for a second just to make sure there's nobody else waiting to come in. But yeah, I mean, get yourself a cup of tea or a coffee or whatever your poison is, and we shall see you back in 10 minutes. Thank you very much for your support and help on my first attempt at Zoom, everybody. I hope it's not going too badly. Just to give you a bit of practice what we preach, as we said earlier, you don't have to be sat down for the entire meeting. You can actually be getting yourselves up and about, and you might even want to do a bit of 5-in-5 workout, which we've helpfully done here for you. Give it another couple of minutes for everybody to get back, and then we shall go again. Is everybody back? If you wouldn't mind giving us a thumbs up, we'll go with the majority. And then we can introduce Kirsty from Sporting Mind. Following on from a few technical difficulties, Kirsty is now with us. If you wouldn't mind taking yourself off mute, and we can go.
Lovely. Thank you, Dave. Morning, everybody. And apologies, tech issues, but Dave kindly sorted me out and got me in. So lovely to see you all this morning. The first slide, it seems to have lost the branding bizarrely, but I think the rest of the slide should be fine. So today, really just introducing Sport in Mind in terms of the way our charity embeds movement. We are a mental health charity that focuses specifically on delivering physical activity rather than a sport organisation that has a leaning towards mental health. So we very much focus on the mental health elements, and the mission of the charity is simply to transform the nation's mental health through sport, physical activity and movement. I'm hoping that a lot of you kind of have already heard of our charity, know who we are. So these first few slides really are just sort of sort of sharing the landscape, as I suspect we are all very well aware of and very familiar with. And then what I'll do is talk to the conditions that we create in our sessions or in our educational programme to help people who are living with very long-term significant health conditions and inequalities to move, to take part in physical activity, because actually what we know, and our research is now telling us, and evidence is that actually not only is it the physical activity, but it's the conditions that are created to enable people to give it a go, to try, to join something where they feel comfortable is a word I say. I think, if anybody knows anybody with mental health conditions and challenges, it's really difficult, but they give it a go because they feel they trust us. So we'll move through the slide. The first one is just really introduce the challenge. So why do we believe it's really important to make sure that we focus on the conditions and create these spaces and in opportunities? Because mental health is a significant challenge. So the next slide, Dave, if you wouldn't mind, just pulls out some of the key stats, which we very much, we do keep front and centre. We feel it's really important to keep this stark reality in our minds as to why we do what we do every single day. And people's lives are being lost, broken, families are breaking up, workplaces are struggling, and a lot of it is around mental health. So some of those key stats, I won't touch on all of them, but I think you'll see there is a very, in terms of the younger people, suicide being the biggest killer of young people under 35s. The second point is talking around 1 in 10 secondary school students self-harming. And then towards the bottom of the points, 1 in 5 young people up to the age of 25 will have a probable mental health disorder. And young people are not in work, and often that is due to poor mental health. In terms of what I'll talk to and where we really have built our evidence around the conditions that we work to, the stat that is around severe mental illness. So people with severe mental illness will have a life expectancy of up to 15 to 20 years less. And that is because of physical health conditions. But it is very much linked to the challenges they face due to their severe mental illness. And actually, we believe and we know that if we can support people with SMI to gently move, then we can play a small part in their ongoing recovery, ongoing maintenance of their health. And we hope and we believe to sort of alleviate some of those physical health conditions that do reduce their life. So simply put, we believe the solution is sport. We've gone for the catchy phrase there, when it comes to mental health, sport is the answer. I would very much broaden that definition. That is any form of movement. It is. We actually talk a lot about physical activity. We talk about movement. We try to remove even emphasis on sort of exercise, because a lot of the people we work with, they will be, the perception will be, oh, that's not for me. I'm not a sporty person, or I can't exercise. I'm not fit enough. None of that is what we focus on. We focus very much on inclusivity, making sure it's all around having fun. So that's what we look to. And then in terms of the work that we do and the proven benefits, I think it's something we all know, but it really is around how do we create these environments so that we can actually sort of achieve these benefits. So I believe the next slide is into kind of the approach, and it's just introducing in these slides, which I'm sure Dave will kindly share around with people afterwards. In the notes section on this slide, there is a link to our full published article in the Journal of Applied Sports Psychology, which was published earlier this year. This was the first study in our 3-year PhD research program that is over in progress. And really the key message there in bold is, and I would very much stress that this applies to anybody who's struggling with a mental health. I think it just is to different degrees. But in terms of the research that we did, people with severe or enduring mental health challenges don't just need the activity. They need to feel safe, to trust what is happening, and also to feel understood. And that is a long-term approach, as we'll kind of see. So the link to the full article, I would recommend please go and have a read. There are going to be further published articles that are coming. The second one, which is very much the voice of the participant, is the second study, and that is being finalised at the moment. But please click on the link in the notes and have a read. But today I just wanted to, in some really simple slides, I've not gone for snazzy anything. I've just gone for pure kind of what are the 3 conditions coming out of our research, but also what we deliver week in, week out is what are the 3 conditions that we really focus on to make sure that the space that we hold is as safe, trustworthy, and people feel understood in. So the first slide talks to the awareness of barriers. I'm sure a lot of us we're all, you know, we all know and we all are aware of things that will impact or cause a barrier for people to be active. We ourselves have them, you know, it might be motivation, it might be time, it might be different commitments or whatever it might be. But I think in terms of when we work with people with severe mental illness, and I think it gives an insight into anybody that struggles with their mental health, it is actually really being aware and understanding the overwhelming anxiety of going somewhere new. For some people that we work with, it is simply a fear of leaving the home. So the quote that you'll see, it is from somebody who now works with us as a volunteer and leads sessions, but this is something that was, you know, very much was something that's part of their life. But just leaving the home, but also entering the new spaces and not knowing what to expect they are huge barriers that are very, very difficult to address from an external perspective. So I think even sort of arriving at the session doesn't mean that people are able to step into the session. Actually getting in the front door is one of the hardest steps. And I think all of our sessional leaders, a lot of our volunteers, if they have lived experience or if they know people with mental health challenges, they know that this is a difficult thing, and therefore just having that awareness and being able to understand and acknowledge and support that is a big thing. One other point I did want to sort of stress here is some of the more practical or physical barriers that we try to alleviate. So again, awareness of this, but things like making sure our sessions are free. So the barrier of, I don't want to pay for something if I don't know if I'll get to the door and won't be able to walk in. Not having to commit to purchase equipment or need anything with you necessarily, being able to simply just drop in. So one week it might be, actually, do you know what, my anxiety is just not letting me leave the house. It's not letting me go on the bus. It's not letting me get in the front door. But knowing, okay, that's okay. You can just drop in when on the day that you do feel able to take those different steps, you can come in and we'll welcome you that day. And we also make it really clear to anybody we speak to and offer support to, is that bring a friend, bring a relative. If there is a support worker in place, please do kind of have that element of comfort and familiarity. So the second key condition that we very much keep front and center of mind at the weekly sessions is around the psychological safety. So creating, and that's before people arrive, but also in the session itself. So we work to having very clear and often concise communication around the sessions themselves. So, you know, what activity is it? Where is it going to be? We do put on timetables the name of the sessional coach or the leader, so that there's just that element of familiarity of who you're looking for, who you're trying to find. So clear communication around what the session is and what people can expect. And on our website, there's very clear kind of helpful information around the venue or perhaps what room we're in. Talking of venues, so accessible venues. So if I think of some of the venues we use in and around Hampshire, in Southampton, we use a community centre hall in Northam. In Basingstoke, we actually use a barn, which is part of a church in central Basingstoke. And then in Andover, we use and we partner with the sports centre. And that is a very accessible venue in the sense of it's extremely central in town. So it is right next to the bus stop. So we would hope that either people walking into town or getting public transport in can get to that venue very easily. Now, the other thing, again, just that awareness of the barriers. We are very conscious that coming into a big kind of sports centre, something that's very leisure focused, the perception of, oh gosh, is this for me? I don't feel comfortable going in there. We do alleviate and try and support that. So the next slide will kind of, or actually the next point, sorry, we'll touch on that. Sorry, Dave. Click back to the one before, sorry. So somewhere like a leisure centre, you know, there's the reception, there's the barriers that you can't get through if you're not a member. So especially if we're aware somebody's coming for the first time, we can always either ask the coach, or if we've got a volunteer, they'll meet them at the front, they'll meet them in the reception area just so they know where to go. We very much welcome watch first. You know, it is very much at the individual's pace. So yes, of course, we would love people to arrive for their first time, join in straight away and feel comfortable, but that just isn't the reality. So we are very open to just come along and see, just come and pop your head in the door, because actually those steps that they may have taken that first time to get there, allowing them just to see the space, see what the environment is like. And we trust in the fact that they will then, that's their choice, and then that's their decision as to when they're ready to take part. I wanted to read a really quick quote on that point from a coach that was picked up as part of our research, that just said that I would really stress that this is just have a bit of fun. It's very relaxed. You can take part as much or as little. It doesn't matter. It's just about having a go. So I would try to focus more on that simplicity. So the consistent coach or that staff member that is at that session week in, week out, their focus is on that. It's on fun. It's on you choose, you take part in your way, because that's very much that personalised approach that allows people to feel comfortable and safe. And it helps to build gradual confidence. We're not kind of enforcing or putting a timeline on people. We very much are the consistent structure and space, and then people can join and build their confidence and comfort over time. Thank you, Dave. And then the third and final condition, which is around the maintaining engagement and trying to support people long term. Now, we all know that obviously any form of movement is great, but ideally what we're looking for is that regularity, that building that behaviour, and helping people to kind of build that connection with, actually, if I'm maybe feeling like this, if I go for a walk, then it will help me to kind of either manage or regulate or just kind of shift. So it's kind of that consistent approach. So in terms of the conditions, and this is why our programs are long term, is that predictability and routine is critical. I think the quote touches upon it fantastically from one of our participants about it being an anchor. So having that consistent, we are in a certain place on a certain day or at a certain time all year round, kind of other than a bank holiday. I think that gives people that predictability. It removes the ambiguity, and it helps people to instill that routine. The non-judgmental space, sort of environment and place, again, it touches on that kind of just having fun. It's not about at all performance or ability. Now, that isn't to say that people don't love to learn. I think we'll see, and there is a quote around people kind of loving to learn the skills in tennis. It's kind of, picking up the week on week, picking up tips, or just gradually getting improvement. But I think it's that creating that, it's non-judgmental, it's inclusive, it's around taking part as opposed to improvement or winning, that really does help people to kind of maintain that and come back if that's what they're looking for. Again, flexibility to attend at an individual's pace. A coach touched upon, not everybody comes every week. It's fine, but they do come back, and that's the thing, that some people have a lot happening, or they have a lot to deal with, or that mental health kind of spike or low as hit, and actually we might not see people for a long time, but they know they can come back if and when they need to or want to. And I think one of the biggest things that we see is the peer connection and belonging. And again, the Corey touches on it, is around people do feel they find their community. And I think it presents in a very different way for every single person. Some people will kind of very much build those friendships. They'll then go for coffee or connect with people outside of our weekly sessions, which we absolutely support. Others will simply relish in the fact that they can come to that same place. They will see that same coach. They will see some very familiar faces, and they can feel comfortable to just come to that session as they are. And they may not present as being overly chatty, or they may not kind of build those friendships and those additional things outside, but actually within that hour of Sport in Mind session, the connection of being in the same place, doing the same activity and feeling safe whilst doing it and having fun. There is that element of belonging, and actually that's their community, is that weekly session, and that is their anchor through the week. So in terms of the conditions, that's what we strongly believe in. I wanted to just share our brand video at the end, just to kind of hopefully bring to life what our sessions are all about. And I'm very hopeful, Dave, when you click this on.
Sport has the power to change lives. Sport is more than exercise. It's motivation, purpose, it's possibility, a reminder. You are not alone. We are Sport in Mind. We understand what it's like to feel disconnected. That's why we create spaces to support mental health. We meet people where they are and use sport to help them find their way back. Every step, every pass, every moment shared builds something stronger. The community, friendship, a force for good. We are made to move, to feel, to breathe, to connect. Sport drives us, but it's people who inspire us. Every day, every week, they get back up. They keep showing up. They never give in. The strength that lives in all of us. So join us. Stand with us. Because when it comes to mental health, sport is the answer.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you everybody for listening. Kind of any questions, any thoughts? I'm not sure the audio for me in the video didn't quite come through to me. If anybody didn't quite catch it, that I find the music very powerful. But yeah, just let me know if anybody wants the link. Please do. But any questions, any thoughts, any comments? Very happy to kind of chat through anything with anybody.
Thanks, Kirsty. I just thought it was really useful to just consistently be reminded about how much creating those conditions are gonna help everyone. Yeah, it was just really interesting. I love the just have fun element. I think that's just a really consistent message that we love to get through to everybody all the time. And I loved hearing about all the different places that you were doing sessions, from a barn to a community hall to a sports centre. I thought that was just really valuable to hear about all those different sessions. really consistent themes as well coming through in terms of belonging. And I think that's come through in all three speakers that we've heard so far, which is great. We have just had one question in from John, which is, what age group are the sessions suitable for?
Thank you, John. So, sorry, I started playing the video again.
Oh.
Bizarre. So our adult program, John, we offer the sessions are for anybody aged 17 or over. Now, I would say if there is a 16-year-old who can be accompanied by an adult in any of those areas, very welcome to join an adult session. Our youth program covers children aged 9 to 16. And in Hampshire at the moment, we've got some sessions in the north, in Andover, Basingstoke and Tadley, and also a new session that's started for young people in Havant. So our youth program is for that 9 to 16-year-old, and they're the weekly sessions. We do also have on our educational program with the young people, we do offer assemblies and workshops and kind of work with either community groups, with local schools to try and embed the messaging around the benefits of physical activity for mental health. So it's helping with that kind of key learning around why is movement good, and try and instill that as a preventative measure with young people, as well as that opportunity to join the weekly session, which is kind of around that let's get moving and put it into practice. So hopefully that answers your question.
Great. Thanks, Kirsty. And do people, is it sort of open that people can self-refer into these sessions, or do they have to come through a specific route to find you?
No, self-referral is absolutely fine. Seeing a poster in a coffee shop and turning up the next week is absolutely fine. So we do obviously work, a lot of my work and a lot of our team in the operational team at Sport in Mind, our work is very much partnering and working with the NHS and making sure both primary and secondary care teams know about our sessions. So in terms of, we work with people and partners to kind of signpost, but we don't require a referral. Again, we're removing as many barriers as we can. We can certainly work with people to get people registered and kind of ahead of time, but it's simply about, if you know about us and you've found a session nearby, just turn up and we'll go from there.
Great. I can see Nigel's popped something in if you want to link up with him about getting you in the newsletter. So
fantastic. Thank you, Nigel. Thank you.
If nobody else has got any questions for Kirsty, then we can move on, Dave.
Thank you very much indeed. Again, thank you, Kirsty. It seems that so far the points have been raised, great points by all three speakers so far, so I'm sure there will be in the next two. The thing that's coming through most for me is the first steps are often the hardest, but equally the biggest to take. So that's something to bear in mind as well. I will now take this moment to pass you over to Nicole and Rob of Talking Therapy Southampton.
Hello, can you hear me okay? Yeah, perfect. Sorry, can you put your volume down? Sorry, there's just a delay. Let me see. Is that working?
Technology, it's all good.
Perfect. Yeah, hello. So we are talking from NHS Talking Therapies in Southampton. So my role within the service is that I am a psychological wellbeing practitioner. Essentially, this just means that I'm trained to treat and support people with kind of common mental health difficulties, things like depression, anxiety disorders, and do kind of assessments just to kind of see what treatment pathway would be most suitable. Kind of past experiences that I've worked within kind of a sort of priory, which is an inpatient sort of psychiatric ward, mostly working on kind of eating disorders and CAMS units as well. And then kind of also worked as a support worker in a neurocare centre as well before I moved on to this role. I'm also here with Rob, which is one of our peer support practitioners, who I'll just let introduce himself.
Yeah, crikey, that is. Hi, we're in the same room, as you can probably tell. So yeah, I work in peer support. So I've been through steps to wellbeing myself for mental health treatment. So I'm a big fan of exercise. It's pretty much saved me, and yeah, so I'll be talking about that a little bit later on. And try not to sound too like a preacher, but I absolutely love this stuff.
Perfect. So if we just go on to the next slide.
Nicole, you've muted. You need to come off mute.
Sorry, it's very confusing being in the same room. Is that better? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Sorry, I was just saying I thought it'd be helpful to maybe give a little bit of background on kind of what our service does, kind of who we are. So we are a free talking therapy within sort of Hampshire and Isle of Wight NHS. We work mainly with patients based in Southampton from the ages of 60 upwards. We offer kind of a big range of kind of different therapies. So we have kind of like online courses and groups that we run. We have like one-to-one counselling, cognitive behavioural therapy, being sort of that more intensive type of therapy, but also in a form of guided self-help. And we also have sort of amazing peer support groups and kind of one-to-one peer support that you can have whilst working through kind of computerised CBT modules as well. Like I kind of said earlier, we mainly work with people with kind of common mental health difficulties, so a lot of sort of depression we see, as well as anxiety disorders, and also within kind of our more high intensity kind of CBT, we do work with people with PTSD, sort of looking more into health anxiety, social anxiety as well. And another pathway that we recognise as being so important and that we do provide therapy for is people with physical health conditions. I think it's important to note that we obviously aren't doctors or GPs where we can't treat that sort of physical health condition, but we look at more of the interaction between kind of mood and how our physical health can impact on that and vice versa, and ways that we can manage that as well by giving sort of different coping skills. So within kind of our role, we saw the importance as well of physical activity and kind of promoting this within our service, especially within the therapy that we're doing. And we sort of, to start this, thought it would be quite important to create a bit of a survey. Sorry, do you mind just going on to the next slide? Perfect. So this was sort of what we started, and our sort of, we are both, me and Rob, sort of physical activity champions, which essentially just means that our sort of role, we are able to commit time to implementing this into our service, really encouraging staff and patients. And again, we started this in kind of October 2024 and thought it'd be important just to get an understanding of how people feel about this in our service. So within the survey, we were really looking at kind of staff's own relationship with physical activity, kind of how important they find it in their own lives, kind of how they feel like their kind of relationship with physical activity had changed, kind of looking at key things like whether that's maybe health issues for them, whether that's maybe just not finding it as important for them, or even if it's increased, just seeing kind of what created that change, and then also how they would feel incorporating this within our work with patients. So in terms of kind of the feedback that we got for this, so this was kind of mainly the part about how we felt implementing this with patients. We only had one person who felt like it wasn't relevant to the role or to them. And then again, we can see kind of the highest rated one was really seeing the benefits of this and trying to include it in their work. But I think from this survey, it does also highlight the fact that kind of noticing the importance of it, maybe not applying it or not quite knowing how to do this as well, which is really understandable as it was something new that we were pulling into our service and encouraging people to do. So another part of this survey that we really wanted to gain a bit of information on is actually what they think would be helpful to incorporate this within their role as well. Sorry, if we could just go to the next slide. Perfect. So these are kind of the key things that I pulled out from the survey. One of the main things kind of being more training around this. And from kind of our service point of view, we go through training to even be in the role that we are. So we have kind of a year training to be a PWP. We have a whole sort of training that we have on working with people with physical health conditions. So it made a lot of sense that people think actually some specific training of incorporating this and promoting it to patients would be really helpful. Also kind of more question statements that we can use with patients to encourage these conversations, kind of knowing how to get this started, how to build this in, as well as once we kind of have that information, actually what do we do with it? So then mentioning kind of external resources and signposting would be really helpful. Kind of once a week, once every 2 weeks, we run skills sessions, which is just kind of checking in on clinical skills with our staff. So having sort of specific sessions around physical activity within sort of that skills session would have been sort of really beneficial. Again, just information on the benefits of it. And I think from what all of you have been saying, these are things that me and Rob have been kind of jotting down that we can take away. Because I think, again, with patients who may be lacking motivation, feel really anxious to get out of the house, actually, if someone's just telling you to do some movement, add a little bit into your day, no matter what that looks like, and not quite knowing why they're doing that or the benefits of it can make, obviously, there be more barriers. Again, just even like encouraging staff to increase their movement. If we're not doing much ourselves, it's unlikely that we're going to then sort of move this on to patients and sort of, again, explain the benefits of that. So yeah, maybe with our meetings that we have, if we could have it outside, being walking, for example, kind of, again, examples of how to incorporate this into sessions, group interventions, just purely based on physical activity, and how to do this with people with sort of long-term health conditions. Again, as we are aware, there may be more kind of barriers or adjustments that we need to make. Up-to-date kind of studies, even just reminding staff to get up on their desks. I think all of us can get a little bit stuck in our chair where we're constantly sort of sat down, we're not really moving, especially when we have a lot of appointments kind of back to back. So just having that little reminder, that check-in, which I know Rob definitely does as well, and a walking kind of peer support group as well. So those were the kind of main pointers that we took away. And then we looked at actually how can we start to actually embed this into the work that we're doing. So the first area that we looked at was training. So we kind of worked with Energize Me quite closely to get some PAC training for all of our staff, which is sort of physical activity clinical champions is what that stands for. So we had that in summer 2024, and that was presented within the context of talking therapies. So actually, not only was it just about physical activity, but how we can implement this into our role, with some signposting information towards the end. And again, that was just looking at, again, how do we start to build this into our service? We also had the creation of me and Rob being kind of the physical activity champions, and us being able to allocate time within our week to build this in, sort of look into resources, look into signposting if needed as well. And as well, we kind of have locality meetings, which is kind of like different parts of our service meeting up, just to kind of have that bit of a connection, but also get some more training. And we had Energize Me come and deliver kind of a 2-hour session to each of the locality teams, kind of, again, reflecting on staff's relationships with movement, and how it could be to kind of add this into our service, what things that we can think about as well. Then we kind of moved on to looking at this within patients. So we looked at kind of how within our courses that we run, so the main two that we run at our more kind of low intensity options is Journey to Wellbeing, which is more of a focus for people with depression and anxiety, and our Managing Low Mood course, which is more of a depression focus. And we looked at actually creating more kind of psychoeducation within the sessions around this, so having slides detailing the importance of this and why we think it's important to build this into your life, as well as kind of within the breaks, we were looking at encouraging them to actually get up and move. I know within the Journey to Wellbeing, Rob was delivering that was face-to-face, so they were actually doing some movement in the sessions together. The Managing Low Mood one that I run was online, and we looked at more doing those kind of 5-in-5s within the break, and encouraging that as well within each session. We also created a signposting document with Energize Me and also Southampton Public Health, just to kind of create so many different places that our staff can kind of signpost or refer patients to. And we broke this down into loads of different areas, as we know that some people may feel more confident, like Sue was saying, to maybe go to a yoga class or maybe go to something that's more in a group compared to people who may want to go to the gym. So we were looking at like swimming, for example, example, walking, looking at kind of running, and then our staff could kind of look in specifically to what exercise people want to do and have all of that for Southampton they could signpost to. We also looked at kind of embedding this within our assessment. So our assessments is if someone was to refer to us, we would complete kind of like a 45-minute assessment with them, getting an understanding of their current difficulties, their goals for treatment, so we could put them on the pathway that would be most suitable. And within that, they kind of had to fill out a form beforehand, which would ask them about how sedentary they are, how physically active they are, so how much movement they do in the week, and if this is something they would want to focus on or help to increase within sort of treatment as well. So this was really something that we could highlight to our staff for when they sort of start their treatment, we could bring this back up to them. Again, encouraging staff to even filter more around that within the call, so not just relying on those questionnaires, but also then pulling in what was the barriers, what would you want to work on specifically. And then we also, within the group interventions, we had sort of different fidget toys, kind of tennis balls that we were using to really help increase that level of physical activity on the course. So then we also looked at for staff as well, as again, like I said earlier, we know that it's going to be unlikely for people and staff to encourage patients if they're not doing it themselves. So Energize Me got some posters professionally printed to go around our office with looking at all the benefits of kind of physical activity, taking the lift instead of the stairs, why we want to be physically active. Obviously, we did our survey, which was to really kind of, again, highlight that to sort of why it's important, but also just to help staff have that check-in of kind of actually, has their relationship changed? Is this something that they want to maybe go back to and increase? Our managers bought us standing desks as well as fidget toys, so we can have those in the office. We created kind of like yoga chair exercises we had printed everywhere, just so that people again would have that physical kind of encouragement to get up and move a bit more. We created kind of an internal Teams channel with our staff. So if they had sort of built this in with a patient, if they had any questions about that or reflections, if it went well, or if they struggled with something in particular that maybe me and Rob could kind of answer, or as well just send through kind of up-to-date signposting. As well as me and Rob have delivered a couple of sort of clinical skills sessions for staff now, really just focusing on physical activity, kind of how they found sort of building this in, if there's any sort of barriers or limitations, just to again increase confidence around this. But we are very aware that we're not kind of got to the point yet that we're happy with, or that actually we feel like we're doing as much as we possibly can. I think we all know within kind of our work that there is a lot of kind of like barriers that we face in kind of having to get support as well from managers to implement this sort of thing. So kind of next steps that me and Rob thought would be really important to focus on is having kind of a psychoeducational course with patients, hopefully that being face-to-face, that's purely just based on physical activity and mental health. Sort of being able to provide that psychoeducation, and that could mainly be after they've finished a course of treatment with us, that's maybe looking more at kind of the CBT skills, and that being something they could go on to after. Kind of just having a peer support kind of movement group. I think we already have, is it 3 peer support groups within our service running all around Southampton, a mixture of in person, online. We have a male only one as well. And we just think actually having that just be purely for movement as well, if people want to get a bit more physically active. We've also sort of been speaking with a university lecturer in Southampton for her to come and do kind of a presentation or skills session on how do we effectively integrate this into treatment with patients. And I think actually having that as being from a lecturer who runs the PWP course would increase staff's kind of confidence to develop that. And it's actually something now, if you go through the trainee PWP kind of training, that it is already being taught, it's already being part of the modules that they have to do. So it'd be really good for the staff who's been here a while for that to be kind of something that they also are aware of as well. As well as encouraging staff to increase movement in office. We have gone through a bit of a merge recently where we've changed office. We've changed from kind of Dorset NHS to Hampshire. So a lot of things have changed. It's caused a bit of a pause for us, but we're wanting to build this back in again, put more things up around the office as well to encourage staff. And we're just constantly trying to update our signposting information. We are again sort of working with Energize Me for kind of like looking at the Water Wellbeing project, the This Girl Can, and yeah, just wanting to be able to connect a little bit more with external services. If anyone has kind of any ideas outside of this of what we could be doing moving forward, we are always welcome to ideas about this. I think me and Rob are really passionate about this being something that we have so much more kind of information and support for in our service, as we recognise how important it is. But kind of building those connections can take time, and I think we are both a bit impatient to get this started. So yeah, if anyone has any ideas, please feel free to send them over, and I'm happy to give my email if anyone wants to send some information over as well. But I thought, yeah, next we could kind of just move on to Rob's own personal experience. So yeah, I'll just hand over.
Okay, let's hope the sound doesn't go too bonkers. I was coming to the end of my life earlier, which is weird. Yeah, so first of all, I wanted to give, as because she's showing on screen, I want to give a big shout out to Sue. I felt a real connection when you were doing your talk. It's like, I want to, if maybe we could have a catch up at some point, just share some ideas, because as you know, peer support's my passion, and so yeah, there's a peer-to-peers rule, as they say. So yeah, I'm working at Steps to Wellbeing. Well, no, it's Talking Therapy Southampton, which hopefully, yeah, I've even got it written down. Still says Steps to Wellbeing. Talking Therapy Southampton, which hopefully in the future maybe we'll change it to Moving Therapies. That would be ideal, wouldn't it? So I'm someone from way back. Loved to train. I grew up in a time of the Rocky films and Sylvester Stallone and Arnie. So like all kids that age, we didn't have all the distractions of social media. We were allowed out to be active. So training and hitting the weights and all those kinds of things were just part of life, and just something. It's the only thing at school I ever enjoyed was sports and PE, to be honest with you. So as long as I can remember, I've battled mental health. So when I look back on it now, it was a thing. I was raised in a generation where you didn't talk about it. It was just not, you couldn't exactly go up to your teacher and say, I'm feeling a bit sad today. You'd probably get hit. It was just those sorts of times. I can joke about it now, but it wasn't good really. So depression, anxiety and things like that. I can remember many battles with low mood and not really understanding what was going on. And it started sort of before my teens really, and worsened as I got older from time to time. I noticed the times that I didn't exercise, my mood would worsen and I'd get quite low and depressed. Didn't really massively relate it at the time, but kind of noticed it. As I got older, I found different ways of coping. Unfortunately, alcohol became an ongoing problem. So starting off in your youth when you're out socializing, which happened a lot, it became a coping mechanism. And yeah, mental health took a turn for the worse. I had two bad occurrences 18 months apart. And the second big episode was a very serious one. I think it was around the end of 2015. So luckily it was a time, so going back in time, so a history lesson, but I was able to see my GP every other day face to face. So yeah, those were the days. So I broke down in her office, just completely cried. She referred me on to Antelope House, some of you may know, is a mental health hospital here in Southampton. Luckily they assessed and took me on, so they helped me out, got me over the worst of it, then referred me on to Steps to Wellbeing, who I'd never heard of, didn't even know they existed. And around that time, because of the alcohol and all that sort of stuff, even though I was still training, kind of going and doing weights, but I was putting on so much weight. I put on about 4.5 stone at the worst of it. I was not in a good state. But somehow I found a resolve to quit. So it's been 10 years now and stayed that way. And whilst, yes, I still crave it, it's the thought that I love training so much. It's a big part of why I wouldn't go back. It's because I love the movement, I love the exercise, I love feeling fit and kind of representing the 50 pluses and in a positive light. So I got better from the therapy, changed a lot of things in my life that were negative, that I needed to. My back was kind of really up against the wall, so I either had to give up or come out fighting, and I definitely came out swinging. So I started to get back into exercise, really slow at first, because like I said, I was 4.5 stone heavier, and it wasn't good. So it was just walks, just reducing alcohol, because I was, coming off alcohol at the same time. Just started slowly, and then it just changed into various formats. I got really into yoga, which was a really good way to get my body strong again. And I just fell back in love with training. It became a way of life. Got back into really good shape, became fitter than I was in my 30s, really, and became like a lifestyle and a passion, which it still is. I have to be careful because I do have quite an addictive personality. So training could and did in the past become a bit of a, too much. So I have to take those steps back from time to time and whatever. But when I'm talking to people about it, I'm really very, very competitive with myself. With other people, I'm a lot more gentle. So it's definitely not, I'm not going to turn into like a lecturer, drill instructor. It's very much you do it at your own pace. I'm very, very empathetic. So yeah, I've been training consistently now for about 10 years. It's just what I do, and it's given me resilience. You can learn a lot about yourself. So it's given me a huge amount of resilience. I can apply training almost as a philosophy to life generally, because some days you can push through things and whatever, and you do really well, and you can apply that to problems in life. And there's been a lot of stuff still going on that maybe years ago would have, broken me again. But I feel so much stronger now, and I've got this mantra that I automatically say to myself, I'll always find a way, because it's kind of been true. And so I really do encourage people now to move more. I run peer support groups, as Nicole said, which I absolutely love to do. So I do actively encourage people to, just get off the bus stop just one step early, but not in a lecture, you should do this, just how about it sort of thing. And I do preach movement a lot, and because I know body and mind combined is so important. It's not just one without the other. It needs to be both, really, ideally. Even if it's just short walk, or just sometimes related to Sue, I spent many a day just laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, looking at all the painting I would never get around to doing, and just sometimes going downstairs. Just that bit of movement would kickstart my day into a better one. So I have so many ambitions and goals with this. Like Nicole, every time we come to this again, we get so fired up again. It would be lovely to have more time to develop this, and we're going to be working on that through auto-suggestion, I think, because this is so important, and I can't believe I still feel the NHS is way behind where we should be in regards to this, and that's not a criticism. It's just nature of things, but exercise or regular just movement could just cure so many and help so many things get better. And I still have this goal of getting a movement exercise themed peer support group up and running. I tried it when I first joined, and then COVID hit. Had all kinds of things laid out, had it pretty much in place. COVID ruined it all. But yeah, I have so many dreams around this, and really love it, and I feel so passionate about it because I know how much it's saved me. So anyway, that's more than enough for me.
Thank you, Rob. Cheers.
So, yeah, I guess if anyone kind of, like I said earlier, has anything that they think we could kind of use within our service, give us kind of pointers, or even if you think you've got signposting that your service does, please just let us know. And yeah, even if you have individuals that you speak to that you think could benefit from talking therapies, please feel free to refer them to us. I believe our postcodes go from SO14 to SO19, so any patients within those postcodes are more than welcome to refer to us. But yeah, any questions at all about our service, about what Rob said, or just anything in general? Peter, yeah.
Hiya. I work for a signposting organisation, so we support people, we engage, find out what best way to provide them with support, and we do a lot of people with mental health issues. And I'm like with Rob and Sue, a great ambassador for using physical activity as a tool. I was just wondering, because we send information out, do all the initiatives have, I don't know, posters, leaflets, information sheets that we can send out? There's links that we can, electronic links that we can then print off stuff in the office and do that. Is that something that we can access?
Is that, sorry,
Sorry, did you get that?
I did. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You turned into a Dalek for about a couple of seconds.
Oh, no. I was just saying, I was just wondering, is that you want from us or that you could provide us? Sorry.
No, that you can provide us.
Yes, yeah. So Energize Me, when we worked closely with them not long ago, have sent us so many resources. I'm also happy to send over the signposting document that we made that has loads and loads of information on about different services, kind of leaflets that we send out to patients. I can send over kind of our chair yoga that we have around the office as well. So yeah, if any of that would be helpful, I'm more than happy to send that over. I don't know if you wanted to pop your email to me directly and I could just forward that on to you.
Absolutely, that'd be great. Thanks ever so much.
Cheers.
Alternatively, I am happy for you to send everything to me, and I shall push through the because obviously everyone signed up for this event, and I can push it out through a follow-up email.
Oh, amazing! Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. I'll do that.
No problem at all. Any more questions? So on that part, I should then move on to our next part, which is our evaluation. Nice and simple in the chat. From a scale of 1 to 5, how informative have you found the session today? How's it looking, Sue?
Looking good. It's a 4s and 5s.
That's very quick as well. Your fingers are on the buttons. It's very good. Excellent stuff. I'm glad you've managed to get something out of it. The thing that I've picked up quite a lot as well is how our talkers today are all taking parts down, jotting notes down, and taking things away that they can do differently, which does actually push us brilliantly into our biggest evaluation, which I asked to do earlier. I think is also in the chat now, thanks to Deb. If you could pop yourself onto that and answer the question.
Incoming into the chat, bear with me, but yes.
That's okay. If you could, once that comes up, if you haven't already got it out on your phone, if you could answer what is your biggest takeaway from today and what you will do differently, just one thing. I am also going to put a bit of pressure on our speakers, though. Their time is not done just yet. I'm going to go through in order to say thank you very much for actually giving up your time to speak to us today. But starting with Sue, I'm going to get Sue to tell you what her biggest takeaway is and what she will do differently.
Thanks, Dave. Well, that's the first time I've seen the Sport in Mind video, and it's just brilliant. So thanks for sharing that, Kirsty. And I've got a few people in my world of sports clubs who I'm already working with around, being as inclusive of people with mental health issues as they can be. And I think showing them that video is going to inspire them. So that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So with that in mind, my thanks to Ben. Ben, over to you. What was yours?
Yeah, thank you, Dave. So yeah, my takeaway is just to engage more at a kind of local level, particularly with NHS talking therapies. So just hearing the speakers today. Yeah, it's about how I then take the safe and effective practice and turn it from just being guidance that people take away to actually embedding it into practice. So yeah, very informative. Thank you, Dave.
Kirsty, over to you. Thank you very much for today.
Thank you. And I'm good. I mean, it's a cop up. My big takeaway is sort out the tech, so don't have the issues to. I feel as if I've missed. I feel as if I've missed a couple of the presentations from Sue and Ben, which is a real shame. So I will go back and watch the recording. But I think I'll continue to connect with you all. I think every time I come on something like this, I kind of realise either I see familiar faces or I've sort of, I haven't seen that person, or we haven't connected, or kind of with Nicole and Rob, kind of, oh gosh, let's connect back in and see how we can all work together. So I think it's it's looping back round and making those connections, and how we can all just spread the word of the great work that is being done and improve it. I think Nicole mentioned around just continuing to improve. I think we're all very keen to do that and help more people ultimately. So thank you.
And this I'll do you separately, Nicole, and then I'll do Rob afterwards, just to get your two, please.
Yeah, I think mine was kind of that safe and effective practice checklist. I think just kind of being able to follow that, I think especially with us working within kind of a clinical setting and do having to check for things like risk, I think just having that to signpost staff to and making them feel safe, kind of checking through that and including this has just been really helpful. But yeah, listening to everyone's personal experience with it is amazing. So no, thank you.
And over to you, Rob.
Yeah, here we go. No, I'm not ending my life. That's good. Yeah, well, there's a few things. I mean, obviously, I'm going to get in touch with Sue, so we'll sort that out. I think this just energizes me, which is really quite a good pun, isn't it? It gets me fired up, and yeah, so I'm going to be nagging certain people in the office about movement groups that we could perhaps look into. Trying to get something going. There's a few articles to read. I've got the Journal of Applied Sports Psychology, because mindset's a big kind of passion of mine. I'm really like educating myself and that sort of stuff. And yeah, just use this energy I've got today and not let it just dissipate, but to run with it.
Brilliant. I think the biggest thing to remember for everybody here today is quite simple. Thank you very much for joining us. My email address is there should you need it. It is your network. This is something we put together to do exactly what we're doing today, and that is getting people from different parts of it and different organisations together and coming up with ideas and realising that we are trying to all pull in the same direction. So I think the fact that we've all done that is superb. I will give you some time back. We are 12 minutes. You've got 12 minutes to go and make yourself a sandwich or do some exercise. Have a little walk around the outside of your building. But on that note, thank you very much all, and we shall see you again next time.